I found Jim Carson after 30 years here at the Outdoor Nationals. So I would love to hear, you know, the way, 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 way back. I don't care about the last 30 years.
Gosh.
I care about the way, way, way back. Tell me how you got started in racquetball and what you did with racquetball and all that stuff.
My gosh, in way, way, way back, probably, shit, I don't even know, 60s, late 60s, early 70s possibly. I'd heard about racquetball and I went to LA. They had a club with Phil Ivey and I mean people I can't even remember. Ron Starkman, Charlie Brumfield was like the big dog at that time. And watched an exhibition or something, a match, a tournament, whatever it might be. And fast forward a little bit, I worked at Orange Coast College, and someone bought me a racket for my birthday, and I got to be a little good at it, playing outdoor racquetball. And that's when outdoor racquetball was huge. I ran the first tournament ever. I was just sharing it with somebody. I had one draw sheet, and I knew the top 2 or 3 players, and then we drew names out of a hat. And one division. And then the shirts, I wish I would have kept one of the shirts because I'm sure as soon as you put it in the washing machine, it's like disappeared. And that was my first original out of the back of my truck. And you know, fast forward to the Outdoor Nationals where we did have 200-300 players, and the pros used to come up from San Diego, and you know, everybody from Marty to Brumfield to Keeley to Surratt to all the big names, Muleheisen, everybody. And on the female side, you know, Betty Weed would come out. She was a big dog back then. And play all the local people, you know, and it was just so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Then one day, Lynn Adams, who, you know, in my opinion is like the GOAT of women's racquetball, and she's definitely in the conversation if someone disagrees, but we went to an indoor pro tournament at King's Court, which is out here in Southern California. And she was watching, Shannon Wright was the big dog back then, and Jennifer Harding and Rita Hoff and all these various players. And we're sitting in the stands, and I had met Lynn at the outdoor racquetball courts at Orange Coast. There was a track, and she ran track for the college and literally had a scholarship to UCLA. And she got asked on a date to go play racquetball, fell in love with the sport. And I said, you want to learn how to play, blah, blah, blah. She gave up her scholarship, and we're sitting at King's Court watching the indoor pros. And almost simultaneously, we looked at each other and said, you're a better athlete than any one of those people out there. And obviously you have to learn racquetball and the skill and all that, but right then she decided she wanted to be a pro. And we just started grinding and grinding and grinding, and well, she did all the grinding. Yeah, I coached her from the first day that she decided to play. And she ultimately, you know, became #1. She had to beat Shannon, and I love Shannon, so there's not a negative if anybody's listening to this. Shannon was like a bulldog on the court. She intimidated everybody. And I remember telling her, I said, the first time you beat that woman, you're never going to lose to her again, because it's the bravado. She was skilled, but I think Lynn was a skill level above. And she did beat her once and never did lose to her again. And was starting to win. And then a woman named Heather Mackay came over from, I believe it was Australia, and she was like the squash champion forever, just this classy, amazing athlete. And they went head to head for a while, and really had some beautiful matches. But Lynn kept winning. And then we were in a tournament in Louisiana, in Metairie, Louisiana. And I'm coaching another young lady, and I'm watching her play, a woman named Terry Gilbert. I'm watching her play on one of the side courts. And Lynn has a round of 32, you know, playing, she's #1, she's playing the 32 best player. And she comes over and goes, in case you're interested, I'm losing 2-0. And I go, why? Because it was 3 out of 5 at that point in time. I'm going, how are you losing 2-0? She's the 32 ranked player. And she couldn't feel her hands, couldn't feel her feet, and had struggled a little bit with it, but didn't think it was anything big. And she wound up winning that match. And it was one of the most fun tournaments for both of us, hindsight only. Because we go to a restaurant and those little paper plates, we figure out, okay, how can you feel your hand? Where are you on that? Where do you know? And we come up with a game plan based on her physical abilities. She won the tournament. She went back to California, saw a doctor, and the doctor showed Lynn the chart that he had written. 2 years before, he says, I think I'm dealing with an MS patient, but I need another diagnosis before I can declare that, or whatever those words are. And for 2 more years, she was the #2 player and the #1 player 2 years after that. At that point, Kara McKinney was probably her biggest rival, I believe. But she either had to work out or play. She couldn't do both. There's a myelin sheath on her spine that deteriorated, and when her body heats up, so she chose to play and not work out. And it's just amazing what she did. Not very many people know that. You know, that the last 2 years of her career, finishing 1 and 2, I forgot which order, 1 year 2, 1 year 1, she could barely work out. Her MS now is handleable. She's not doing anything athletically, so it's just maintaining more or less. Because the way it was, when you heat your body up, that's when you start getting numb and you can't feel things, whether it's your hands, your feet, whatever part of your body. So it's handleable. You know, she has episodes now and again, but she's fine. She's healthy. She's fine.
So give us a small wrap-up about the work you're doing with Trafficking.
Well, I'm very blessed. About, well, it'll be 30 years ago next year. Once I retired from racquetball, I just retired. You know, it was the end of it for me, and it was a beautiful run. And I got involved with children that are being sex trafficked in the United States, domestic, in other words, United States-born children and young adults. Not everything that's happening overseas, which is horrible, or anything that happens at all the massage parlors across the nation, which is horrible. But our focus is children being sold for sex, and it's the fastest growing crime in the United States. It just passed weapons, and eventually it's going to pass drugs. You know, to sell drugs, you have to buy it, sell it, process it, blah, blah, blah. As horrible as it sounds, if you have someone that you have brainwashed and beaten and you own, you can sell them over and over and over again and again, and that's what's happening. Gangs are starting to get involved in it, and it's just a horrible thing that's happened, and we're trying to rip the lid off so everybody knows what's going on. Like here in California, it's not even a violent crime or a strike to pimp out a 14-year-old child. And there are other states across the nation the same way. So, but nobody knows, not nobody, but rarely anybody knows. It's just horrible, the things that happen to these children. And it boomed when social media came. Because now everybody has access to a young girl or a young man. And I'd say it's about 90% female and about 10% male in the United States. So it's not just girls and young women. It's also young boys and young men.
And what's the name of your organization or foundation?
Survivor2Leader, Survivor2Leader.org. And you can see some of the projects we're doing. And my phone number's on there. Call me if you want any information, or if you know somebody and maybe you want to know what to do about that. It looks like something's a little sideways there. Feel free to call me anytime. 714-337-1575.
Is that anywhere in the U.S. or just here in California?
Anywhere. Yeah, anywhere.
Thank you so much for what you do and for being who you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
for talking to me again today.
Oh, anytime. I was so excited when I saw you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, hey. I don't remember what I wrote you about.
I can't remember either, but I was like, oh my
we
gosh,
were
Jim
communicating
Carson.
like this month.
Oh my gosh.